What's going on? It's Dukes and Bell on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. We start off every day and every hour by saying, hey, man. It is a big day in college football because the Dogs and Kirby Smart are at SEC Media Days speaking and talking about all things. And you will get a chance to hear Kirby Smart and what he had to say right here on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game exclusively with Andy and Randy. We're also going to play some of his sound bites from earlier today when he was talking to the media as a whole and some of the things that were addressed, including hazing. He talked about Glenn Schumann. He talked about the speeding issues. He didn't run from it, but to Mike's point, and Mike, we were just talking with Andy and Randy about this. I just didn't think the line of questioning was that where you went, oh, I can't believe they asked that.
Yeah, and that's why I told Carl years ago when Petrino left the Falcons, I mentioned this, I think, yesterday's show, and there was a bunch of, I think it was me, it was a buddy Ken Rodriguez, Fox 5 back at the time. Buck Langford was doing sports back then, and there was a bunch of guys, and we all kind of had a chance to kind of go boom, boom, boom on all the Atlanta stuff, and how can you go into recruits' home and say you're going to be there. And then eventually,
liar!
There was some Arkansas, some guy from Jerkwater, Arkansas, who was like, "Coach, let's talk about the program." So it is what it is. And unfortunately, if you're looking for penetrating questions, you didn't get the answers. Seth Emerson, who covers obviously Georgia for the Athletic, wrote, "Kirby got as many questions, Carl, about the Northwestern hazing scandal as he did about the off-field story in his own program. 13 questions in all." So all I'm just saying is, if you're going to do this. What part of SEC Media Days is 13 questions? It's kind of it's oxymoronic. It
is, Mike. And I'll say this. There's two things or two ways to think about this. One is they don't care. Because if you care, you go in knowing I've got a line of questioning that we need to get answered, okay? Or two, that to what Randy said, which is Kirby's getting a respect now with these back-to-back natties that he didn't have in 15 and 16 and early on in his career here at the University of Georgia. But now with the winning and the recruiting and the way things are going, Mike, I do think he's getting that treatment. And the treatment is you treat him with respect and you don't try to take him down a road where it may be troublesome or it might make him feel or look a certain way. Nick Saban has had this for years. Nobody really asked Saban dumb questions or penetrating questions for that matter. But Saban might take you somewhere that he wants to because he's intended to take you there. But as far as how you address him and the questioning and the line of questioning, it wasn't aggressive, Mike.
Right.
It wasn't, I've seen better press conferences in Market 58. Seriously, it wasn't anything that you go, that's how you conduct hard-hitting questions in a presser where this coach doesn't talk a whole lot, hasn't spoken this offseason but once, and that was a private session.
Right. And by the way, we're Georgia fans here, guys. We want to see Georgia succeed. We're not trying to see somebody do a Mike Wallace on him, but I got to be honest, is the phrase that I like to use. This was basically, if you thought Kirby was going to get tough questions, this was a Swedish massage today up in Nashville at the podium. So, you might as well just take the media out and just call it SEC Days. Because 13 questions to the defending back-to-back national championship coach. Doesn't seem like it's worth it to me. Now, granted, he'll do the entire ESPN SEC Network car wash. He'll do other interviews. But if you missed him on with Randy and Andy, it was a really fun, loose conversation. And I think you'll get a kick out of it. You'll hear that coming up later.
And I would expect that to be. Because, again, Randy, they play together. They have a relationship. That's a little bit different than somebody who's trying to, I don't know, Mike, we talk about these gotcha moments. Right. Or somebody trying to make a name for themselves. I'm going to ask Kirby the hard question today.
Right.
And that's not what Andy and Randy are going to do, especially with the relationship that they have. But I thought the interview was very fun and entertaining, and you'll get a chance to hear it. Let's hear Kirby Smart today from SEC Media Days talking about, and he did say this early on in his speech addressing the media, the tragedy that happened in January.
Our staff, our team, our university, our entire Dog Nation went through one of the highest of highs in January, which was to win back-to-back CFP championships, which had never been done. We then endured the loss of two dear family members, Devin Willick and Chandler LaCroix. We love them and we miss them. So many people have stepped up for our players within our organization during this time of need. One of the toughest things I've ever been through as a coach was to experience that. But some of the leadership that really helped us, we have a rising star in our athletic department in Doris Griffin. She's been there for me, our players, and so many others during these tough times. She's our senior deputy director of athletics and the sport facilitator for football. Thomas Settles, our team chaplain. what an incredible asset he has been for both our players, our coaches, and people in our organization. You know, a tragedy can either divide or unite us. I'm proud of our players. It has definitely brought them closer together and united our team and our family.
Okay. And Mike, I thought he had to address this.
Right.
And he did a great job of explaining what's going on in the program and, you know, how they feel about the lives that were lost. And he's right. They love him, and we miss them. But I thought, if anything, not the speeding, not the reckless drive, he had to address that.
Yeah. And again, if guys wanted to ask more pointed questions about it, I just thought that there would be some little more juice. The fact that there's only one question about the off-the-field stuff. And we said, it's just kind of weird, as Seth Emerson just pointed out. You're asking, you got one question. Who gives a crap about Northwestern? I mean, with all due respect, that weirdness and whatever the hell that is, which is creepy on so many. You and I haven't even talked about it because there's really nothing to say.
We did when it happened.
You're on vacation.
Yeah.
I was on vacation. But it's just, you look at it, you're like, okay, that's how you get to those 10-win seasons once every decade. Good for them.
Wow.
But I mean, yeah, no, Georgia doesn't haze, and coaches that do that's crap. It's silly. It's become, let's be honest, anachronistic. Shouldn't exist in 2023.
Yeah, I'll just say the hazing part, it's not surprising, but it just goes to show you that in places where you never Northwestern? Come on. In places you never think that it would have. Right. You think that's happening in the schools where the schools are winning. Ohio, if I told you that was Ohio State, you'd be like, yeah, of course it's happening. And it's just weird. But, yeah, I totally agree. Let's hear Kirby talk about the speeding issues. This is what he said today at SEC Media Days as Dukes and Bell.
I'm disappointed anytime we have traffic incidents. It's very evident when you look at it. We've had traffic citations and incidents throughout the history of being at the University of Georgia. And we actually don't have more now than we've had in the past. So what concerns me most is the safety of our players, all right? And when you drive at high speeds, it's unsafe. And we don't want that to happen. We're going to do all we can to take that out and make sure that's eradicated. But I'm also smart enough, Pat, to understand and know that 18 to 20-year-olds is when this happens. When it happened to me as a student athlete, that's when speeding happens. What we want to do is take that out and make it safe and not have high speeds. If somebody's going to get a speeding ticket, it should not be a super speeder.
Yeah, Mike. Yes, Coach.
Yes.
Yes, Kirby. You are absolutely right,
yes.
Kirby.
That's that I should know better at age 54. But I mean, that's part of it. I mean, look, and as you and I said yesterday, anybody who expected Kirby to say, well, let's take a look at other programs. Now, that's first off, that's a losing argument, and you're bigger than that, and there was no reason to. And he would never go down that road for guys who thought they should. You know, and if somebody does want to take a look at all the power of the top 25 teams and see how many kids have been popped for speeding and super speeders and reckless driving around the country, somebody might want to put that together. But it doesn't change things at Georgia, and you just think that in light of the tragedy, you'd think the kids would still have the big picture in mind, but they're still, as Kirby pointed out, it's 18 to 20-year-old kids. It is what it is.
404-726-0929. It is our Solomon Brothers Diamond text line. You can also find us, guys, on Twitch at ATL929 The Game, YouTube at 929 The Game. Whisper's running our cameras. You can see us and watch the show there. Follow Mike Bell at Mike Bell ATL. I'm at Put 'em Up. See Dukes. And, of course, follow this radio station at 929 The Game.